the podcast has been huge for me, just having this being like a video journal, because now I can take this knowledge that I have, learn not only to articulate it better, but to convey it as well. And then be able to like come to you or come to Elizabeth or come to Louis with ideas that I've like have come up with, and now I can have this conversation. It's not just dumb, you know, it's not just like I'm sad, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yo, bro, like, can you believe this? And like, you could be like, well, look at it like this, and I'm like, oh shit. And it's been a lot of aha moments. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, it's a good way to fucking look at that.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of us get like tunnel vision, you know, and then it's like once you have your mind set up on something, and it's like, I'm going to do anything I can to reach that goal, and you don't realize there's actually like a slightly less rocky road to get to that goal. And then people, you know, you step back and you're like, wow, I could have, if I just, you know, throttled off a little bit, took a breather, did a lap or two, like I'd be in a different place. But
it's fucking
here nor there, you know.
It's fucking life. Life is like, you know, it's all learning progress. Wisdom is just learning that you don't actually know anything.
Yeah.
You know, and learning to understand that. You know, one of the things that I wanted to like, talk about you, so I sent you that little like insert of just like stuff that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things, one of the big kickers is I want to know your first impressions of me when we first met, because I'll tell you my first impressions of you.
Oh God!
And I was like,
"Is this recording already?"
Oh yeah.
Oh God!
Oh, we've been recording.
Oh God! Oh Lord!
Oh man! I'm glad you poured on more wine.
Oh yeah, you must have done like, he's pouring a glass. We're gonna get to the truth.
Man. No, so when I first met you, I was like, this dude is a fucking character. Like you didn't give a fuck. Like what I liked about you is like you didn't give a fuck what people like thought about you. You were your organic self, and I saw that, and I was like, that's somebody who's fucking real. That's somebody that like I can fuck with. You know, a lot of people kind of come out with this agent, and it's like, you know, like have you heard of that? Like the agent or the representative.
Yep.
They come out with this like agent, and this representative, and you can kind of. I think if you're a person who doesn't send out an agent, which I believe I am, I believe you are as well. When you're a person who doesn't send that out, especially like, you know, for a work setting or whatever, it's easy to spot other people who are sending those out, right? And for me, if you can't be who you truly are, right? Like obviously with like a grain of salt, right? Like I'm not gonna come out and like just be a super facetious asshole when I first meet you, but I'm gonna be fucking facetious.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Know what I mean?
I think like when you lead, also too, it's like in terms of just like being your authentic self. I think part of that too is like obviously being part of the gay community, right? And so in today's day and age, there's a huge geopolitical, I mean, that's a rabbit hole conversation. I don't think we can record for that long, but the moral of the story is like, there's a lot of things that are in the news lately, just putting a shadow of doubt like on the gay community, the LGBTQ plus community. And so for me, it's kind of like seeing the things that are said about us and like people that are part of our community on the news and stuff. It kind of blows my mind because, you know, media takes things and runs with it, right? It's far right, it's far left. It has to be extreme, right? Because that's how we're going to get your attention, you know? And so I think by me being my authentic self and showing that I don't fucking care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what your views are. I don't care if you think I'm going to hell in a fucking handbasket. Like, because I'm still going to show up to work. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do it fucking well. And I know I'm going to do it well. And I also don't have any problems coming to you and asking for help, no matter like what your views are, you know? And a lot of the people in the emergency department, as you probably already know too, are like pretty religious. Like a lot of people are faith-based. And so, and here I am, you know, dropping all sorts of words, like walking around. Like, I mean, I can't remember. I said something the other day and it caught the ears of a few people, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's just like being your authentic self and showing like also too that being gay at the same time too doesn't make or break me. Like what I do at home in my personal time and behind closed doors with my husband is nobody's business but me and his. Nobody else's business, you know? And I think that's what makes people uncomfortable is like that aspect of it. And it's like, being gay isn't just all about sex. It's that has nothing to do with it. The whole man with man, woman with woman, whatever, right? For me, it's like, am I building a stable home? Am I providing enough for Vinny and I? Is he doing the same? Like, are we coming together as equals? And I think part of that too is just, I don't know, just being able to show that we're no different.
Yeah.
We're people. We're fucking people.
Yeah.
We pay our bills, we show up to work, we do our job, and we go home. Yeah. And we do our thing. So like, how is that any different than what everyone else does?
Yeah. And I think, like, I think at least now, like, as the generations kind of like grow and we get more exposure and there's more diversity, I think it was like they said, like, I don't know, it's like 50% or something like that of like Gen Z identifies with LGBTQ.
Sure. Yeah.
So like, regardless of the stats or whatever, like the thing is, I think what it comes down to is just like, are you genuinely a decent human being? Like, are you authentic? Are you somebody who's telling the truth, right? Like telling like it how it is.
For sure.
Right? I'd much rather like you be a straight shooter with me and telling me like, dude, you fucked up, right? Than like lie to my face, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so like, I could see that from like when I first met you. I was like, okay, like this guy's a straight shooter. If I fuck something up, especially because being a paramedic, like in like EMT and the ER, we were doing ambulance out of there. Yeah. I need to trust the players on my team. If we're fucking going out and I'm about to shock a rhythm that I should not be shocking, and it, and you don't call me out on it, right? For whatever reason, it ruins the whole dynamic. Now I don't know if I can trust you again. You don't know if I'm competent, right? So in that setting, when I first met you and I just like your personality came out, I was like, oh, this dude's fucking real. I could fuck with him.
Yeah, it's never a dull shift.
Yeah, dude. You're a fucking.
It's never a dull shift.
You're a wired man. So I'd ask now. It's like, so the other half of that question is, what was your impressions when you first met me?
So it's funny actually, because my first impression of meeting you was back at tech school, back in San Antonio, back in 2014. Like,
oh shit,
fucking slick sleeve, had no rank on, because we were there at the same time. And I think I had mentioned that to you too when I first came up here, and I was like, we were at tech school together.
Oh shit, yeah.
So my first impression of you was like, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh, this dude's a fuck boy.
Oh, dude, that's a fuck boy.
Because it was tech school, and things in tech school were like kind of ratchet.
You know what's funny?
People were crazy. Like, the things that happened in tech school are not even speakable. It just has to be like, it's buried with the hatchet. It's done. Like, so that's my first impression. I'm bringing it way back, like before J Bear, before anything else. Like, but I think if I remember correctly too, you were a rope too. Yep, I remember you being a rope. Yep. I remember always watching everyone go out with their ropes, and I remember the people that were certain people that had ropes were the cool people. I remember you being one of them, because then there were a few people that had ropes who were like, that dude's a Nazi. Like,
I was literally about to be like,
that dude's gonna narc on you the minute you put one foot forward versus the other, or you even bend your wrist a little bit. Like, yeah, like, oh yeah, there were a few. And I remember always watching people. I thought it was crazy when people would get their ropes taken away too, because they fucked up or something. And it was just interesting dynamic to like watch it unfold. But I did think it was admirable to see like you and like other people like be ropes, because I was like, I don't want that attention. Not in this setting. Like, I'm here to shove my face in a book and be done with it. Like, I want to get through this. So
yeah, I remember that time in my life. I was very I came out of BMT with this idea, like, I'm gonna change the world.
Didn't we all? Oh man, God! After our like fun run and we got our coins and shit.
Oh
yeah, we all thought we were gonna change something.
Yeah, I had a lot of Kool-Aid on board at first.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it was like it was like the what got me was it was like, you're saying like there's the dudes that are gonna like snitch, right?
Sure.
And as much as I wanted to be this like, because my idea behind the rope was like, this is good, this looks good of me as like a leadership. If I want to make something serious out of this, like, what better way to start than right now? And it was like, we got brought into the meeting for the ropes, and they were talking about like, going from green to yellow. And then obviously the reds are like the rare, right?
There's like only one or two, right? Yeah, there weren't many.
So they're like, look, if you want to be yellow rope, we have to get like a quota on like 1041, whatever.
341.
341.
Yeah, 341. Yeah.
And I just remember as soon as they said that, my brain was just like, shh. I was like, fuck no. You want me to snitch on my boys? You want me to... And I was like, no fucking way. Like this isn't that serious. I just wanted to fucking march flights and sing fucking like Jodies, bro. You know?
Well, and it kind of ruins the team dynamic if you think about it, because like the minute you go to like narc on somebody, it's like, well, shit, why didn't you correct me? Like, why didn't you help me? Why didn't you come to me and say, hey, why don't you go do this? And like, I experienced something like that firsthand that like almost put me out of the Air Force. Like, and I just, I fully believe in like, if someone doesn't have the tools or you recognize that in that moment, like, why not fucking help them? Because you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yep.
Like, if he doesn't know how to push an IV med and we're about to run a code here or we're about to cardiovert somebody, like, I need you to know that you have to slam adenosine and not slowly push it in, right? Like, slam that motherfucker. Yeah, I know. Like, can I mix it with saline? No, bitch. Slam it, please. Like, and it's not often we slam drugs in, you know, in medicine, but that's one of them. And if you don't know how to do something like that, it's like that person could die because in that moment, and kind of like we said, like the team dynamic and calling you out, and like you're not doing it to be malicious, but like you're genuinely trying to be concerned and do what's best for the patient. But
right.
And in a non-medical setting, you want to be able to do that for somebody just out of being a genuinely good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that rubbed me wrong, and that kind of shifted my perspective. I think by the time that you got to the ER and we actually started working together, I was pretty much in my villain arc of being in the military. You know, I was just kind of like, how can I spite leadership at every given opportunity?
that was back when we had Bolton and Belk.
Yeah. And I love Belk. Like, Belk was a really great mentor to me. So she really did put a lot. She toned down what could have been me going full Anakin Skywalker and just slaying younglings all day. She definitely led me back some, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I think her leadership is like the reason why, like, you know, I like worked so hard on like taking Mailman under my wing. You know, like I remember Mailman getting to the ER and people just fucking like berating her personality. They were like, she's too positive, she's too happy. I'm like, dude, she's the most fucking genuine person here. Like, all you motherfuckers are like putting on this facade, or you want to have an attitude, or you want to act hard, or you think you're smarter than everybody else. I'm like, she's just being nice to people. And like, so what? She's a little bit like nice, too much nice.
Eccentric.
Right. But I'm like, word. Yeah, you know, so what? But like, she wants to fucking learn a lot more than like some of these people here. So like, I was like, I would put my neck out on the line for like Emily, and she's fucking.
You don't have to necessarily like their personality or who they are, but like their work ethic and their drive is like something to still be respected and like commendable at the end of the day, because you could be in like, not to say that you can't not have any bedside manner, but you could have like the worst bedside manner, but like if you can run a code and bring somebody back every single fucking time and never had a patient die, like I'm gonna want you on my chest. Like, you know what I mean? So
I'll handle bedside. You just do.
I may hate your words, but like, man, if you can get me back, like, you're in my court. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, so you know, back on the personalities thing, right? We're talking about like coming into a setting. I think where you and I are similar is that it's definitely different for the two of us. But I know that when I walk into a new setting, that there is it's kind of like eyes are on you, right? Like anybody walking into a new setting, it's eyes on them.
Oh, 100%.
But like I come in and I'm like the fucking like haha goofy like facetious like asshole, and people are like, who the fuck is this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like you kick in the door and you're just like, hey, what's up, bitches? And I'm like, all right, bro. So
I'm good.
You know what I mean? Like, but you're very adamant about being like, hey, this is who I am. This is my personality. I'm not gonna bullshit you. And you do it in the same way that I do it. It's like, I'm gonna make the joke first. I'm gonna make it known first, just so that way it's cleared. You can relax. I can relax, and then we can actually focus on the important part of us both being in this.
For sure.
Is that something, one, do you agree with? And two, how did that kind of come along, if it is something that you agree with?
I mean, yeah, I would 100% agree with it. In the sense of like having that dynamic and like not we didn't necessarily like work together in like the rig sense or anything like that because then the emergency department was going through like a lot of changes and some for the better, some for the worst, and that's a whole nother wormhole conversation.
That is a reason for therapy, is those changes.
Yeah, that's just the cherry. Yeah, Ooh. But yeah, no, I mean, I would absolutely agree. And I think part of that too is also in the positions that we both play, right? So, like, you're a paramedic. I would hope that you have that confidence and like being able to recognize that too, kind of like what you were saying. It's like, oh shit, okay, like he's on it and like he's going to be the person that I want to go on a rig with. Whereas, like, some of the other paramedics that come through and you're like, ooh, they kind of question some decision making. But when you're there, you're like, nope, we're doing this and we're doing it this way. And it's like, cool, okay, he's driving, I'll follow, and then like even with my background too, like having like my critical care SCI identifier, it's same mentality of like used to taking that charge, right? Putting the foot through the door first and saying, hey bitches, it's me, we're doing it this way, buckle up, and just having other people in the unit like you, and I could rattle off a few other people too, just having that is like, it's a sense of comfortability and like it's almost like a safety net, because then tying it back to being corrected and giving tools to people on how to better themselves, it's like, again, having that confidence and knowing that everyone else does to do the same for you, right? Do the courtesy and like pay it forward for first and foremost. So
is that something that you've always had, or did that come with like military service, or like what kind of incited that like take charge attitude for you?
I think what really incited that in me was when I was stationed at Travis. That was my first like permanent duty station. And I was part of a horrible, horrible scenario where a patient had died, and someone had shut their respiration alarm off on the monitor, and he had a pacemaker. And so he was AV paced, and so it was firing away. So it looked like he had a cardiac rhythm. And then because the respiration alarm was off, he wasn't breathing. And so when they went back in and investigated, he had been dead for 15 minutes before we even had initiated the code. So, and then I was partnered with one of the other nurses, and that was one of my patients. And so like, obviously that eyes are on me, right?
Right.
Well, a couple days before that, I had been on night shift for like 9 months, so I was like fucking struggling, and I like was trying to advocate for myself and be like, I need to be on day shift, like I am not doing well, and my leadership completely like ignored me, said no, we need to keep you on nights. And it's just like, well, why'd you even ask if I wanted to switch to days? Like what's the point, like, Yeah. And so somebody I nodded off at a computer because we were super slow a couple of nights before, and so I nodded off at a computer, and somebody took a photo of me sleeping, and they didn't bring it to my supervisor. They didn't bring it to my shirt. They didn't bring it to anybody within the hospital. They went straight to the wing safety office and submitted the photo with whatever they said about it. So yeah, I was in the middle of a fishing trip and I got a phone call, and it was like, you need to come in your full service dress blues tomorrow. And I was like shitting my pants. I was so nervous. I'd never been in trouble before. Like, what's happening? And they basically kitty cornered me into a room, and they were like, what's this photo? And they literally just showed me the photo, and I was like, that's me nodding off, because I told you guys, I tried telling you and you freaking ignored me. Well, anyway, to speed it up a bit, they tried tying the two instances because they're only 2 days apart. So what they were trying to say is I fell asleep and my patient died.
What the fuck?
So they tried like combining the two situations. And so I was, oh God, this is something I talked about in ALS too, that like freaking wrecked me. But I was like, to be in a position where you are so vulnerable, and like to have the system that is supposed to be there for you and turn against you like so utterly quickly without even second thought, and like going to legal, meeting with lawyers, like, I mean, I was like looking at Article 15s, I was looking at all sorts of just crazy paperwork, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do right now. And like, no one was in my corner.
Yeah.
No one. And even like the people that were in my corner were not of like rank or like, right. They didn't have that power, right?
Swing for you.
Yeah. And so like Travis was super toxic. I went through like 9 flight chiefs in 2.5 years. I went through like 5 or 6 flight commanders, 4 squadron commanders. So like my leadership was, I never knew who it was. Yeah. So they were like, oh, who's this kid fucking up, right? And so yeah, I like fought it tooth and nail, and I finally like listened and like got this like fire inside where I was like, I'm not fucking going down. Like you can literally all get fucking wrecked, and I'm gonna fight. Like, and so I looked up AFIs, I looked up like all sorts of like medical legal and the photo and the timestamps, and I like went through like the patient record to be like, look, like these 2 things happened at different times. Like you can't tie this together. Mm-hmm. And so by the end of it all, and like it was like my last 6 months there, they issued me paperwork. It was a LOC for like falling asleep something or whatever. Yeah, it was even less than that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm done. Like it's done. Like, yeah. And ever since that moment, I've always been a big proponent and advocate of like truly sticking up for yourself and like asking the right questions. Ask wrong questions too, because eventually you'll find out what the right questions are to get you the answers that you hopefully need. And AFIs and like that little blue book and brown book that they hand you out, and you're like, oh, read it. And we're all like, oh yeah, that's kindling. That's kindling for camping, right? Like I can't tell you how many of those books I've burned. Oh man, like, you're like, oh my God, I don't need another one. But now it's like, holy shit, what a tool. Like something that we honestly take for granted, and we're like, oh, AFIs, but like I can't tell you how many of those AFIs like utterly saved my ass because like of the slimy shit people were trying to do in leadership, like just like whitewash me and just be like, write him off, he's done. Like, and they were trying to do the same thing for another nurse that was part of the situation too. But ever since that situation, that's just where I get it from, of like advocating and like speaking out, because you don't know what other people are going through. You don't know if someone else is like in the same situation that I was in. And so and so many people are so quick to judge and so quick to like assume. And it's funny because Vinny and I we'll get into like little tips or something, and he'll be like, you know what it's like to assume, like it kind of like throw it back in my face a little bit.
Oh, that's a good.
And I'm like,
that's fucking good.
He's like, you know what assuming does? It gets you in trouble. And I'm like, you know, like you're not wrong, but I fucking hate you right now. So good. But no, it's a good check and balance to like actually, for people to take the time and like actually look into stuff, like ask like, well, where was this root cause problem? Right. And I could tell you from the beginning, it's because I was on nights and I was fucking struggling to like just get basic sleep. Yeah. You know, and it's something that profoundly changed my whole outlook on the Air Force and my career for ever since. Yeah. So.
No, that's a pretty fucking legit reason. For people watching that don't know, some of the things that like you were saying in there, AFIs. So those are like Air Force like instructions, right? So they're just like a set of rules essentially. LOC
or guidelines even too.
Yeah, guidelines. And then an LOC is a letter of counseling, and LOR would be a letter of like reprimand or something like that. Yep. And then an Article 15 is basically like your big big slap on the, like, it's not even a slap on the wrist.
It's like going to court and the judge, jury, and executioner is a colonel, and he's basically like, yeah, you fucked up, stamp, here it is. And like, that's pretty much it.
Like, here's a reduction in rank, maybe. Here's some mandatory, like, fucking duty time, or even the worst. Yeah, the worst thing is possible is like goodbye, right? Like, you're out of the Air Force.
Sure.
So, and those are like, what, Article 15, Article 92, all these other bullshit things. Crazy Air Force-isms.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't do your research and if you don't advocate and stick up for yourself, it's like
you can get swept in that system very easily.
It is so thick that, like, if you and that's again like why I'm a huge advocate and proponent of that, because like if you don't sit down and like actually do the research and just, I want to say, like, roll over like an old dog and just die, but it's like a lot of people do that and they don't fight for themselves, and it's like the system's there to help you too. And it's hard to focus on that when everyone's always on you, and it's like bad, like you fucked up, you did bad, like you could have done this. And it's like, I get that, but like, how can we learn from our mistakes? How can we move forward? Right.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's where that I think is where the growing pains are, honestly.
So I want to ask you this because like obviously that's a big point in your life that is because that's in your career, right? That's a big point in your career where you were being harshly and unjustly criticized for something that you honestly were not doing intentionally, right? It's not like you were like, hey bitches, I'm gonna fucking take a nap, right? You were just fucking tired. You've been
Mm-hmm.
working nights for 9 months. You're probably like you said, your sleep cycle is shit, right? The studies are out there that show fucking working nights for an extended period of time actually like reduces your lifespan,
Yeah,
right?
it's like 10 years on average, I think. It's
Yeah,
something
it's
crazy. Yeah.
insane. But so growing up, I'd assume that you had to face some sort of adversity, and like for me, like my adversity is like was like getting picked. Like I grew up in this fucking like this like podunk ass town, bro. Like I was like one of like fucking like three like no, I wasn't one of three. I was like a few like
One of four.
Yeah, one of four. There was like a lot of like colored people, right? But like I
Yeah.
was like the only like Puerto Rican that was like my complexion Puerto Rican, right? Most people you see Puerto Rican and they think like, oh, fair skin Latino, right? Like like the good looking ones, right?
Sure.
Granted, I look good too, but
I'll keep drinking this wine. We'll see about that.
Yeah. Get to the bottom of that bottle.
Yeah.
But like my hair's straight. Like I don't have like super curly hair. Like
Sure.
like my hair doesn't fro out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do I get? Everybody's like, oh, are you Middle Eastern? You must be like Middle Eastern. So I'm like the oddity of a brown guy in my town, and it was like all I ever fucking heard growing up was like, oh yo, what's up Arab? What's up Arab? What's up Arab? And it's just like it was like
Jesus.
on repeat, dude. And I'm like, bro, I'm not fucking like Arab. Like what, And it was so like demeaning. Like it bothered me so hard, like growing up. And I think that was kind of the start of me being like, in your Levito speech, you wrote at the very, very end, you wrote, for all the people who will say like no, for all the people who say I can't, for all the people who say I won't, right? Like this is me showing you that, right? And
it was a very silent fuck you to everybody.
And
it was very silent, but very pronounced.
I have been like on that, like like a lot of that's a huge driver behind a lot of the shit that I do is kind of like, all right, you know what, like for everybody who ever like talks shit on me, like I'm about to make you eat shit. Like when you see me, you're gonna be like, fuck, dude, like. All right, maybe I fucking should have given that guy a fair chance, right? Like, damn, look at this guy now, right?
Absolutely.
Did you like grow up like that? Was that a thing for you? Like,
yeah, I mean, growing up was I grew up actually in a very I wouldn't say so. I know people kind of laugh and are like, oh, not so nice part of Connecticut. They're like, oh, Connecticut, white people, money, like, must have a yacht and a mansion. And it's like, no, I definitely did not have any of that. I grew up in a very, very old, like ratchety house. It was like built in the 1890s. My parents were very young and still like working, like almost like paycheck to paycheck, essentially. And then we went to school up the street, and for the majority, like, I mean, I had like friends like all throughout like growing up, but a lot of the time, like there was a lot of like bullying, honestly. Like I had been teased and bullied from like the day that I can like remember, which is pretty sad. And, like, to look back on it as someone who's 29 turning 30 next month, it's like that shit sticks. Like you don't forget it. Like you don't ever fucking forget it. And before I got married, obviously my last name was just James, and so there were a select few people that would call me Games, like being like insinuating that I was gay, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're right.
Fucking nailed it.
But it's like in that moment, you're like, when you're in, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th grade, you're like, what? I don't even know what being gay is. Like we had, my parents had like gay friends that we would go over to their house, but I didn't think anything different. I'm like, oh, like Brad and Andy, like they're together, they're a couple. Like I never put 2 and 2 together, right? But I knew that it was obviously like demeaning at the time, and not like, I wouldn't say demoralizing, because being gay is not demeaning or demoralizing by any sense of the imagination. But when you have like such a young mind and you don't know any better, or like really have like a true grasp on how the world is, it's like that shit fucking sticks, and so having to always kind of like fight for myself in like that aspect. And then my dad was in the Army for 22 and a half years and was active duty for a good portion of it, and he deployed a lot. So being not like the man of the house, but like that old school mentality of like, you're the oldest, like take care of everybody kind of thing. And just learning how to grow up kind of fast in some aspects. I wouldn't say it was like to the wolves, but there was definitely a lot of moments where it's like, yeah, my dad's not here, I really need to like help out with this.
Yeah, the
So
pressure's on.
which is kind of funny because I always said like I would never join the military. I said fuck the military, I'll never join it. My father was gone all the time, like during like very important milestones in my life, and I was like, why would I ever want to have a family and like put them through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I find it funny now, almost 9 years later in the Air Force. I'm like, it's not too bad. It is actually kind of bad, but I mean, I'm like, I see the allure. The money's good.
Yeah,
I don't gotta worry about healthcare. I can get a retirement out of it.
Yeah.
But you sacrifice a lot.
Dude.
And people don't realize that.
Yeah. It's a big ask being in the military. It's a really big ask. And, I think, we were talking about it prior to this. Oh, settle down there.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh,
geez.
sorry.
You're like barely past the neck.
Okay? I know. It's like, I ate before I came here. Promise. Oh, man.
But it's a big ask. And there's like a lot of kind of like this. It's kind of like this line that you kind of have to draw for yourself and like ask yourself, like, how much of me am I giving to this system and does it benefit me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where like I've been kind of just drawing that line, and I do it with military, but I do it with a lot of things in life, where I'm just like, what is the gain out of this? Like even with like investing or like, trying to build up like a real estate portfolio, like I'm at that point now where I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what am I doing with this for if I'm not even enjoying where I'm at? You know? And so that's another part of it that's been a big turn for me. It's just kind of trying to, like, just, like we were saying earlier, just kind of like take a break, pause, and look around and be like, all right, what is everybody else saying? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said about, and I think that's where, I mean, it's not the ultimate sacrifice. Ultimate sacrifice means, you dead, you're gone, peace, but like
your family needs a flag.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's, but you still like, there really is like a huge sacrificial part that goes into it. And I think also too, in today's society, there's like this huge, proponent on how can I set up for the future? Like we're so worried and focused about the future, and retirement's huge. Like how many jobs can you honestly go to unless you're like working for a big Fortune 500 company and have a retirement or have like a true pension?
Like a real, yeah.
And like the military, like the government pensions are the only pensions in the entire world that are like economic proof in the sense of inflation,
right?
So like economy goes up, your pension's going to go up, right? Economy goes down, I don't know if it's going to go down, but if it does, that sucks.
Right.
But it's not going to drop so much.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a safety net, right? And then like the healthcare thing and whatnot. And, Vinny recently had a health scare. And so that was something that I was like, holy shit, like if I get out, like I won't have these benefits. We don't have that coverage per se. But then it's like also what toll is it taking on me, and I think it's pretty clear to myself and to Vinny that like it takes a huge toll on me. And I think I'm at that point where I really need to seriously stop, recognize, see what I need to do for myself, but also make sure that like we're still set up for success. And I think what makes that easier too is that he was prior enlisted. So he knows like when I come home and I kind of unload a little bit, he's like, yep, totally get it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if he was just a civilian, has no idea, and it's not going to be like that dependa, like, oh my god, I'm going to text your fucking commander and tell him to fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. he wholeheartedly gets it. And so I think that is such a huge saving grace in like our relationship too, that like staying in the military has worked in that aspect.
Yeah.
So
is he good like about like just listening, like just saying like, oh, I get it.
We bounce back off of each other a lot.
Yeah.
And there will be some conversations that we have where what do you say? It's kind of like it's more of just being an ear, but there are definitely conversations where we're able to either relate to something, or we're able to recognize like a situation that one of us has been in previously that relates to it. um, and you have to try to find that healthy balance, right? Because if I come home and unload everything that ever happens at work that was so fucked up or went south or sideways, like, like, yeah, we're not even gonna do that.
I'm fucking getting out for you.
Yeah, like for real. You know, and then there's some days where, you know, Vinny comes home and he's like, you know, don't even ask me about work, and it's like, all right, Roger, got it, you know. But it's always still good to like check in and like be able to have that level of healthy coping, because you don't want to offload too much on your partner, whoever that may be, because then you don't want to drag them into it.
Is there a balance that you find where you're so there's two parts of that I kind of want to like pick on. One is that like for me, I'm very much in the mindset of like, fuck, you have a problem and I think I know how to fix it. Do you encounter that? Is like, do you guys ever do that to each other where like you feel like maybe he's like trying to feed you solutions more than you'd like, or you feed him solutions more than he likes? Are you aware of that even?
You know, we're pretty independent thinkers for the most part. But we do come together and we're able to be like, well, what do you think about this? And sometimes, um, just like with any relationship, the communication can get broken where it's like, I'm on my way into work, like, no, we're not doing that. And I have been able to catch myself in those instances. And same for him. It's kind of like, in the moment, we don't have time to talk about this. Like, let's reevaluate this later. Because you don't want to make a brash or hash decision and be like, oh, this is what we're doing and it's done and I'm leaving, you know. Having the ability to be able to carve out time and space to truly sit down and go through like scenarios or talk about the day or whatever it is, it's like you really need time for that. You can't rush that. Like, you have to like really nurture it. Because when you just continually offload and you don't really have solutions or anything like that, or even just like a way of convey or projecting like your feelings in an appropriate way, because I mean, with anybody, you know, you say something, right, and they immediately start thinking, they're formulating an opinion like, how do I want to respond to this, right? And so if you say too much or too little, you could get an opposite reaction of what you're looking for, which can be good or bad depending on how you look at it.
Right.
But, no, I think I kind of went on a little tangent there, but I think all in all, you know, it's like having that ability to openly communicate without offloading too much, in the sense of still making it healthy, right? Which I think kind of also ties back full circle to the therapy thing, because having a third unbiased party to just sit there and listen and be like, yeah, that was fucked up what you went through. Like, yeah, that is horrible. Like, just simple acknowledgments. And it's not to say that Vinny can't do that. He absolutely does. And, you know, I still am able to and love talking to him like unconditionally. But sometimes, like, I want to shelter him a little bit, because like some of the stuff it's not that I don't feel comfortable talking to him about it, but like, I don't know how he's going to handle it. Like, what if that's too much for him? What if that triggers something? Like, you know, especially with the whole like crash C-section that happened. Like, I mean, I didn't go into like every detail, obviously, but he knows about it, and he knows that I'm going to therapy for it, and he fully supports me. And I think, again, having that outlet and that ability to do that is like so important. And just, again, coming back to the vulnerability aspect, like, I'm not okay. And I think just even to be able to say it out loud and like hear yourself say it, it's like, oh wow, okay, that like that's such a huge like weight off your shoulders and your chest. Like, just even being able to say the words out loud to yourself, like, even if you're in a room by yourself and you're like, I'm not okay, and it's like, fuck, all right, like, how do we go about this, you know? And I didn't even tell Vinny like I was going to see somebody until I was already going. I was like, hey, just so you know. He's like, okay, cool, like, let me know if you need anything, like, so.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that is like huge, man. That is so huge. Like the part you said about saying I'm not okay out loud. Um, like I I was saying it to myself in my head, and that was why I started going to therapy. And it was like I had a conversation with Louis, and like I was just we were talking about his struggles, my struggles, and like I had remembered like really long time ago where he was like really fucking going through it, man. And like, you know, he was like, I mean, like it was just like a really low point where he was just like, dude, like I'm fucked. Like, you know, he's like, I'm just so fucked. I can't do it anymore. I've lost, right? You know? And, you know, the opposite, like, end of that spectrum is like, it finally happened on my end. And I just was like, I was like, dude, I'm terrified. Like, I've lost control, you know? And, dude, it fucking broke me so hard. But then to, like, on the other side of it, I was just like, damn, I'm glad I got that off my chest, you know?
And that's what it is, like just simply just putting it out there. It's like it I won't say it's life changing, but like for you internally, it means something. It means
Yeah.
more than what other people will ever recognize or be able to like, understand.
I think it's just like cleaning out the wound, you know? Like I think with bad coping habits, it's kind of like bad medicine, right? It's like,
Mhm.
hey man, like this is a laceration. Like this needs to be fucking sewn up. Like don't just fucking hold pressure on it until it stops bleeding and like come in, you know, 48 hours later and be like, oh, should I get sutures on this? It's like,
Mhm.
bro, you know, like how many scars do we have on our heart that we've done that with? When we
Sure.
could have just gone and got sutures. We could have gone and got therapy and it would have been a fucking clean heal.
Would you
Right?
say, because I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, like like unhealthy coping mechanisms, like in the medical field, right? Like,
Oh,
I
rampant.
mean, woo,
Rampant.
yeah, I mean, the darkest, most fucked up humor. I mean, and we don't even do it intentionally. It's just how we get by, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, for me, I put on blinders no matter like what this situation is, and it's going to fucking hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just put on blinders and you just do it, but not like everyone is able to do that. And in some aspects, it's like okay because you need to have that ability to just focus and go. But I mean, at the same time, it's a very easy way to put skeletons in your closet and just keep piling on the fucking laundry and just not be able to like unbury it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think like I don't know if you can relate to that, like being in the paramedic side of things, like you
Yeah.
just put your blinders on, you just fucking go. You don't think twice about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, like I definitely had a lot of experiences like that. And you know, I think I've got really good at doing it.
mm-hmm.
Um and I remember I knew I was fucked up when it was like my like third or fourth like DOA. I knew I was super fucked up because he was like 14 or 15, like
That's rough.
14 or 15-year-old kid, and I went with Erica. We show up on scene, and she like gets the information that we know it's a kid, and she's like, I'm like I don't want to go in there. She's like I don't want to see it. She's like, can I just stay out here? And I was like easy. I was like just stand here. If I call for something, just let me get it, right? Like just go grab it for me. I'll handle this. And I walk in there, and so like, dude, we get in there. The mom is like fucking hysterical. Like, you know, security forces is there trying to like control the scene. I get escorted upstairs to the bathroom where like he did it. Dudes in their house is the same layout as like my old base housing, right?
Mm.
And I'm just like in this setting and I'm absorbing all of it. And I get to the scene and I see this kid and like it doesn't even phase me. I'm just like, all right. I like cut his shirt open. I like stick leads on him. I like check pulses, and I'm just like, fuck, he's dead. And I look on my monitor, and I got PEA, and I'm like, all right, well, we have to do CPR. Like the PEA, let's do CPR until we get a bag, and let's get. I was like, Rody, go ahead and call the ER. Let them know I'm starting, you know, CPR on this kid. Like, dude, obvious, dude's brain matters. Like, it's just obvious it's dead. I cannot like
Sure.
resus this. It
Yeah.
was so fresh. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like, go get me a bag, call the ER, let them know I'm starting CPR. I just need one breath, and I'm calling this code. So I start pushing, dude, and like I'm just doing this whole thing, and I walked away from the whole thing. Just like did this whole code. One of being like, all right, yep, he's dead. Called it. Called. I think it was Cifuentes, and I was like, yeah, this is like a DOA. Like did compressions, 2 rounds of compressions, one breath. I have PEA, but this is no viability. And he's just like, all right, cool, call it. Wrap up. The mom is like hysterical. I walk up to the mom and I'm just like, hey, my name's Mark. I'm the paramedic on. And she just like starts losing it, like fucking just vicious crying. And I'm like, okay. And I look at the dad. I'm like, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry for your loss, but we're going to go ahead and terminate this call here. We're going to hand this over to security forces. If you need anything, you can come to the hospital and we'll get you guys squared away. Walked out, got in an ambulance, got back, dude. And everybody's just like, hey, Mark, what's going on? Are you good? Are you good? We got therapy good. We got BHU here. And I'm just like, dude, I just want to eat my lunch.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I was like,
bro, like, you know, and then like, dude, I was reflecting on it later on and I was just like, wow, I'm fucked up. Like, I don't even have blinders on. I'm just like over here, like, yeah, dude. And so like that was something that like that was one of the things like doing my VA claim. I was like, yeah, I should probably put that in there and talk to people about that because it is, man, and it's such an unhealthy like lifestyle to just like keep going around and not like acknowledge shit like that. Fuck, man, that's dark. I might even have to edit that out because that's bad. Like,
no, yeah, but I mean, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I definitely was shut out really emotionally, and so like now opening up all of that stuff and like understanding those emotions, bro, it's a wild ride, man.
It's not fucking easy.
It's like, not.
And I think that's why it's good to have a third party involved, like, because we have that sense of comfort with our significant others, our best friends, or coworkers, even that may or may not have like been through the same or very similar situations. So, but it's kind of, I think it's nice now having currently experiencing like having like someone who's unaware, unbiased, like just listen and then like have tools and have like different ways of looking at it. And it's just like, it's not easy, but it definitely has a level of betterment, I think, for myself, like, and not to completely unload on Vinny or unload on my parents. Cause like, I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, like my parents were a little nervous for a little bit. They're like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like, let me pour a glass of wine, like,
but I do notice though that you have a very, very positive like demeanor about you. I feel like I can be really negative, and I don't know, maybe maybe I am more. I think I know I'm funny. I know I'm funny. I don't know how positive I am. What is your like? One, how do you stay so funny or stay so positive? Do you think that I'm a positive or negative person?
I mean, I would say, at least starting off with me, like I think I definitely have some aspects of positivity, but I am very, I think it crosses a fine line of being blunt and honest, like, and being direct, where it's like, okay, maybe you could have not sugarcoated it, but you could have worded that differently, right? Like, you didn't have to like come at me so hard, man. Like, you could have just told me I fucked up and left it at that. Like, not like wrote me off for the last 5 Christmases I didn't send out a Christmas card. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like there's that aspect, but I don't know. I never would really consider myself, this sounds horrible, like a super positive person. I'm more of like a realist in terms of like, this is the shit we're going through and this is how we're going to get through it. And I think like even back to like the whole tech school thing, like being a rope, like there was always an aura of positivity around you in that sense of just like that young leadership ability, right? And obviously like when we're all in tech school, that's things like we're all pretty happy for the most part, I feel like, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So I would definitely say that. I don't know if I'd be able to comment too much on the ER time, but I definitely could feel when you would come through and be like, yeah, we're fucking here today. And it's like, same. We're in the shit together, man. Like, oh, another snotty-nosed kid just checked in. Like,
yeah.
But in some aspects too, like having that positivity or bluntness or directness, whatever you want to call it, I think that's a very good way of having camaraderie and like teamwork. Like, we're all in the machine together. We're all being grinded through it to some degree, some more than others, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that we're able to all recognize and be able to come together and accept and be able to talk about it. So
yeah, I agree. It's interesting. There's a lot of like kind of like I don't know what they call those, but they're like there's certain words that you say like when you say them that my brain kind of like lights up, like fires, because you're saying things that like whether they're like analogies or metaphors or they're just certain specific type of like meanings. You're saying these things, and like we've had a very like, hey, we work together, you know, we have the same friends, we're friends, like we hang out, right?
Yeah.
But we've never had deep like boys conversation like this before. But to have
we were always usually like 2 sheets to the wind. We're at Phil and Caitlin's house. It's a party, like, right. Or we're somewhere, you know, crossroads, whatever.
Yeah. So, but I did notice it about you, and it's something that I have noticed. I'm like, this is somebody that I know if I wanted to have this kind of conversation with, that we could have this kind of conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of how I pick the people that I like choose to be friends with. It's that like, could I have a real conversation with you? We're gonna bullshit 99% of the time that we hang out, right?
Sure.
Like if it comes down to it, could I like have this kind of conversation with you? And I was like, yeah, AJ would be a good person to fucking have on and talk with.
Absolutely.
Like this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty. There's no stone that's not unturned. Every conversation's fair game in my mind. So.
Yeah. No, I fuck with it, man. I fuck with like your personality. I fuck with your vibes. Like they're fucking dope. Like obviously we joke around too, so it's always good banter with us. I want to ask. I have a lot of things I probably would love to ask you, but I want to ask
episode 2.
Episode 2, bitches. I want to ask, what is like? So we talked about it a little bit earlier, but with this generation coming up, do you have a concern or fear or anything like that? Like with what's being perpetuated in media, how people react on social media, like.
I think, and I only have Instagram left, and that's more so just for like my photography, like, or personal photos, or like just looking at like wildlife photography, like travel, whatever.
Have you sorry to interrupt. Have you minimized what you follow down to just specific things? You don't follow bullshit?
I've started to do that. Yeah, like there was a lot of things that I noticed that I would like look at. I'm like, oh, like that looks like it's so cool, or this, and then you start to think like, well, why am I not doing that? And you start self-reflecting in like a very negative limelight, and you're like, fuck, well now I'm like depressed because I'm not in Turks and Caicos or Caicos or I don't know, you know, like I'm not in Bermuda, I'm not in Italy, I'm not in California at a vineyard. Like, I mean, you can feel those negative thoughts even like watching your friends, like FOMO almost, like fear of missing out, right?
Damn, bitch,
and so, and part of that, like the military takes away, but in terms of just, you know, relocating new places. But I think with like social media, it is so detrimental, and I think you really have to find a healthy balance with it and be able to recognize when it's like too much. Like, and that's why I like deleted Facebook right around, it was like a couple of years ago, and it was when COVID really became prevalent, and then the election was coming around when Trump and Biden were running, and like it was just so disheartening and just so just disgusting to be able to like open up like my Facebook and think like, oh, I'm gonna see like, you know, pictures of family or friends and they're doing all these great things, and no, it's the opposite. It's all political like propaganda, and it's all people voicing their super far left and super far right opinions, and the media, you know, definitely they get your attention by making it extreme, right? And so this whole like, especially with the LGBTQ plus community, and like the whole like grooming your kids thing, and how, oh, you know, don't groom my kids, like groom your fucking dog, like something like stupid shit like that. And you're just like, how is somebody who is in drag, you know, reading a book to a child, like how is that something where it's grooming them or detrimental, right? Like that's a very loaded conversation with like the whole drag queen reading to kids, and that's my own personal opinion on the matter. But you know, like how is that detrimental? Like, and then I think what makes people uncomfortable with it is because it's a grown man wearing women's clothing and makeup, and like that is something that people are not comfortable with, right? And they don't want their children to be exposed to it because they think in some way or another it's gonna harm their young minds, and they're gonna like go do this, and it's gonna be so bad for them. And it's like, look at all the people that have come out as gay, lesbian, trans, bisexual, like all the people that are part of the community, right? Like people are still going to be that regardless of their environment, right? Like, I mean, I grew up in a household that, it was a very loving household. We weren't really religious brought up or anything like that. It was just like for the most part, like a normal upbringing, right? But it happened to be the fact that like I'm gay. Like, it wasn't like my parents sent me to, some camp and it's like, all right, go learn how to be gay.
Like, say like to the gay academy.
Yeah, like, oh my God. It's not like they sent me to these places or put me around these people to like influence my upbringing.
Yeah.
Like I am who I am because solely that is what I'm me. There's nothing that influenced that in any way, shape, or form. Like I came from a heterosexual, normal, loving mother and father. Like that's no different than the majority of parents across the country.
Yeah.
And yet here I am. Like, so the whole idea of like the whole grooming thing is just beyond me. But to tie it back to the whole media thing, I think that, people need to find like a healthy relationship with it and realize when something is being twisted in a way to, achieve a certain agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, and maybe you can agree with this or not, but I mean, there's no such thing as like someone being moderate. Like you either have to be far right or far left, and there's like no in between. And I think it's very unfortunate that our political spectrum has been intertwined with the media in that aspect, because it's like, I believe in abortion. I believe a woman should have every fucking right to her body, and I am pro-choice all the way. Like, do whatever you feel like you need to do for, you and your family. Mm-hmm. That is your choice. But I also believe that you should be able to have the right to bear arms and be able to own guns. Do we need AR-15s and stuff? Maybe not. But like if I want to own a couple shotguns and a couple handguns, like I should be able to go do that too, whether it's for personal protection or for hunting or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't be that in today's social media and society.
You're saying as an influencer or as somebody who's like garnering some type of audience, you cannot be like in the middle. You have to be one way or the other.
Exactly. You can't. There's no moderation. You can't be in the middle. It's either you're far right or you're far left. There's no in between.
Do you think that there are? I don't know how like studied you are, but do you think that there are figures that are in the middle, or they say they are but maybe they're not? Like, because I would say that, like, and I know everybody fucking hates him, but like Joe Rogan, I feel like he plays a very like good middle ground. I don't think he ever like, I mean, you go, yeah.
I was gonna say, I personally haven't listened to Joe Rogan's podcast. I actually only recently started getting into podcasts just because I'm like pursuing like wine education and other stuff like that. So the world of podcasts has slowly opened up to me. And I'm like, holy fuck, there's so much here.
There's so much shit. There's so many people talking.
So many things to learn. Oh my God. Which is so cool. But there are definitely like moderate people out there, like 100%. I don't think that they're hidden. It's just they're not talked about. Like they're not celebrated. They're not celebrated, right? And so you're either so far blue or you're so far red. And the media is very good at pushing people to one extreme or the other. And I think it's really hard for people when they are so sucked in with the social media aspect and news and whatever, is that they really can't formulate an opinion for themselves.
Group thought.
Like you're literally just watching Fox News and you're like, oh, this is it. This is it. Or you're watching CNN. You're like, dude, oh my God, Republicans are going to freaking take away every right of mine. And it's not to say that it's not happening, because it's happening on both sides, right? But at the same token, there's more to it. There's so much more to it. But you never know that because it's only what the media shows you.
Yeah.
And who honestly in their lifetime is going to sit there and read through an entire legislative bill when you can just turn on the news and go on social media and be like, oh, 2 sentences, I got it. I understand it.
I'm an expert.
Yeah. Oh God, this is the experts.
Oh man.
But it's like, it's no different than when you go to log into your Xbox or PlayStation, you read the privacy statement, and you just
like, yeah, bro, let me play.
And literally you just signed away your rights to all your credit card information to like, Univision or whatever else.
Yeah.
It's just like, people don't read it, and ignorance is bliss, right?
It's wild.
So
and there's a couple things that I've read recently that I want to share with you, because I think you'll actually like these. But so one of them is the statistic on data or media that is published most people are consuming content that has been has been published within the last like 12 hours or 24 hours, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like people are getting fed information like rapid fire.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the other one was like, I forgot who talks about it. I want to say it was Sam Harris, but they talk about basically how you're saying, like social media is toxic. And like an instance of this is that like people on the media will portray stuff like you were saying, um, like being like afraid of having a drag queen come and like read a book, right?
Sure.
And that'll get on the media and it'll be everybody's feed, like people are eating it up and you'll see in the comments it's one way or the other. But like you bring that up to me was the first time I've ever even heard of shit like that, because in my day-to-day life, like I hang out with normal people and they don't fucking talk about shit like that. We talk about real ass stuff, like like how's work going, how's like your career goals going. Like political conversations only happen on social media, they only happen on like media, unless you like dig for it, unless you like go into a setting and you dig for it. I don't really like have those kind of conversations.
I think it depends on like, I mean, I don't understand like algorithms and stuff when it comes to like how social media content is like shuffled through, because I'm sure if you go on like my Instagram reels versus your Instagram reels, they're probably going to be night and day difference, right?
Once jiu-jitsu and cooking on mine.
Sure. Mine's a lot of like log cabins and traveling and wine. There may be a couple of other like risque accounts. It's funny because I know my husband follows them because they'll be like, Vinny liked that post. I'm like, I see you.
I got you red-handed.
But, you can look, can't touch, but, you can have fun in that aspect. Yeah. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I think it really depends on like what you're, like, what are you looking for, right? And so even, I mean, people joke about like, oh, I want to go to Vegas, and then they like open up Google to go look up, something completely irrelevant, and all of a sudden like the ads on a third-party website are like, here's your trip to Vegas for $89, and it's like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like, and it happens all the time. So for people to say like your phones aren't listening and stuff, I'm like, oh, they're fucking like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like, fuck you, Steve Jobs. Like, I know you've been here, like, you know what I mean? So it's just that aspect of people are like, society's watching. They're watching your every next move. And how can they feed you stuff to sway you one way or another, right? I mean, it was even in the news the other day saying how this new, I think, mayor, school board member person was elected, and somehow now all these, I don't know if they call it a grassroots movement or what, but this conservative group is moving from school board to school board around trying to like vote down this like legislation when like their kids and stuff don't even go to those schools. They're not even a part of that system. And it's just like these people and groups are trying to influence like other parts of the country that have like nothing to do with like their local, like their home of record or like what they stand for. Like, if in California is a big, really progressive, obviously, in a lot of things. So who's to say like, why can't people in California like have that version of an education? And then like if West Virginia wants to teach whatever they want to teach, like have them do that. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Like, why are we forcing things down people's throats when it's like you as an individual can easily make the decision of like, I brought over a bottle of wine. You're like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm not drinking right now. It's like, cool. Okay. You made that decision for yourself. Like, so why can't parents do that in a collective environment, or like everyone else who, has that?
Yeah, I think it's because I think it goes back to like in the simplicity of it. It's just like machines within machines within machines, right? And
sure.
Like it all comes down to like how does it all like synergize together? And I think education that's another rabbit hole too, right? Like,
I mean, you could play that scenario off of so many topics. I mean, like abortion, like abortion should be blanket across all 50 states, in my opinion, allowed. Like women's healthcare, pro-choice, like do what you think is right. But now with Roe v. Wade gone and like people making decisions for other people, it's like that's hairy.
Yeah,
like
that's what I like. That's what I mean. Like with politics, man, it's just somebody has to just open the can. Somebody just has to open the can and
just hear the air hiss out.
And yo, I'm telling you, bro. Like now we live in a world where like the can gets opened by somebody who's not even in politics, and it just it gets opened and it's like boom, like it's all over social media. It's insane, man. And so like
everybody's a politician nowadays.
Oh god, everybody's a fucking subject matter expert in fucking 2 sentences is what they are.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. I've been trying to like detoxify my social media. I'm trying to put out more positivity on my social media. You know, like the world doesn't need to see me being angry about something dumb. Like I think I would be more beneficial as a friend to people, as a partner, as a brother, as a son, if every time somebody in that other aspect of my relationship looked at me and was like, at least he's fucking happy today. Like at least somebody here is fucking taking this shit and like enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, bro, we're here for such a short time to be fucking worried about shit that you can't control, or to be having these arguments that don't mean nothing to you, or to hate people that have never even fucking like you've never even met before, or who couldn't give a second thought about you. Like, it's just wasted energy. That's spent energy. You know, so like it's such a fucked system, and that's why I asked. I was like, you know, how do you look at social media? It sounds like you kind of have like a similar look as I do. It's just like,
yeah, it's definitely something where, and Vinny and I have even talked about it too, where it's like, should we delete our Instagrams today? Like, but it's also one of those things where it's a nice avenue to have for keeping up with people that you may not like, networking, however you want to spin it. And so I think at least with the Instagram thing, you know, depending on who you follow or how you narrowed your stuff down, it's like what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Although sometimes I think the algorithm gets it wrong, because I've had a lot of like hunting videos come through, like people shooting like coyotes on their ranches. I'm like, I don't do this. Like I don't like. Cool, I guess.
It's giving you like
it's giving me butch vibes, and I'm not like not here for it.
It gives you proximity. Like that's one of the parts of the algorithm is you get pushed proximity data. So like
see, and I know nothing about that.
Like so I started like dating this chick, and like within the
currently
week,
dating?
No.
Oh, okay.
Within a week of us like hanging out, she was like sending me jujitsu videos. She's like, "Why is this popping up on my feed?" And I was like, "It's because we've been hanging out."
Yeah.
So like Instagram is trying to get us to socialize on their platform because they want time in your they want your time in their system.
You know what? Actually, it's so funny. I mean, you probably have seen the videos, but kids like doing stupid shit and then they get hurt. Vinny gets kicks out of that. Like he thinks it's so funny, and some of it's like funny too, because like if I was a parent and my kid like did all those flips down the slide and like bopped their head or whatever, like I mean it's comical, it's funny, but it's like it'll pop up on like our friends' phones too, like whenever they come over and they'll send it to us, or I'll be at work and all of a sudden I start getting these videos of like kids doing stupid shit and like parents laughing, and I'm like, oh yeah, Vinny was watching that.
Yeah, so it's proximity. And like now too, what Instagram does is it'll tell you when you look at a page, like when it's trying to feed you new data, you can see exactly which one of your friends are following that page. It'll be like big bold print, like followed by boom boom boom.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool, thanks. I don't want the algorithm, no thank you.
Yep. Swipe next. Yeah. No thank you.
It's a fucked system. But yeah, man, I think that was some good stuff that we had. I kind of want to, again, just to kind of wrap it up, is ask, with everything that we've kind of discussed, if you're watching this like 10 years from now, like what do you want? What are you expecting from future you? What do you want future you to remember? Future me,
God,
to remember.
I think like the big thing that me, you, anyone else included to remember is like where you came from and how hard you fought to get to like where you are. I mean, no one gets to anywhere in life overnight. Everything requires hard work and dedication. I mean, like even me now, just promoting to staff finally after how many tries, it's like, fuck, we finally did it. Like, so like my road to get here even sitting, here today and yesterday, like when I found out and stuff, is just kind of like you reminisce and you think about all the hard work that you did and all the things that you had to do to like get to where you are. And for me, like that's super humbling, right? So I think for anyone, you, me, whoever, it's to remember like your journey along the way to like get to where you are, and like every step that you did in your life got you literally to that point. I mean, it's no different than relationships, right? Like if me and Vinny weren't within the same radius on Tinder, never would have happened. Who knows? Like, what if I did actually continue pursuing med school? Like, what if he said, chucked up the deuces and he went into the Peace Corps right away? Like, what if, right? And you can always play the what if, but it kind of comes back to like what you said earlier of like, controlling what you can and not worrying about what you can't, right? Because shit's gonna fucking happen, right? Like things are unmistakably going to happen, whether you like them or not, whether it goes sideways or to your benefit, and you just have to know how to navigate it. And you may not know how to navigate it, but that's part of like the journey of life, is getting to your goal. Just sometimes you may have to take a detour, so you just have to be ready to do that.
Fuck yeah.
Which is never easy, taking detours, because we just want to get there, right? I want 7 figures in my bank account. I want to be on a beach with a vineyard behind me. Like, but is that attainable tomorrow, a year from now, 5, 10 years from now? No. But like, you just got to keep grinding, right? You just got to keep going, and you just never know.
Yeah.
So
that's good. I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Just remembering where you came from, and no path was the wrong path.
Oof. Deep.
No path is the wrong path.
Oof. Deep. I like that. Oh, that was good. That was a good way to wrap that up. Dude, thanks for being on, man. I fucking enjoyed it.
Appreciate you, awesome. As always.
Fuck yeah.
Cheers.
It's a good fucking app, dude.